Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to the village board meeting, 7 o'clock, Monday, May 10th, 2021. Call to order and silence cell phones, please. Roll call of officers.
We have Pete Anzia, Josh Gordon, Glenn Gotzacker, Don Hatcher, Rose Sowers, and Dan Wolf present.
Open meeting law compliance check.
Yes, we are compliant.
We all please stand for a pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll have public input, 2 minutes a person, 10 minutes total time. Okay, then we'll move on to Belgium Area Chamber of Commerce report.
Hi, Andy, Master, President of the Chamber. Tara is here and not able to make it tonight, but everything's going along well. We're looking forward to our summer nights live this summer. Appreciate everyone's support.
Okay, thank you. On to number 7, a consent agenda items. I'd like to approve items 7A, 7B, and accept 7C.
So move. Second.
Motion's are made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll go on to unfinished business. Consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding 8A, discussion regarding residents complaint of odor from Lakeside Foods detention pond. You guys want to speak first, and then we'll give Paul a chance, or?
I do. I feel like the smell has gotten much better recently. It was horrible last year. We just bought our house here in 2019, and there have been many days where I can sit outside, enjoy being outside because of the smell. It has gotten better. I just want to know what's being done about it and to keep it under control, because last year it was awful, and I think anyone who lives in this town can agree to that. So I just would like to hear more.
Okay, I think I'll give Paul a chance to explain what he's doing.
The biggest thing is, number one, I think, I don't know if you were here last year, but we had beets, we had an early beet run, which throws off the balance. And I was told that it's never been done before this was started. So we had an early run of beets in early August. Okay. The problem with that is we run a pickled beet, which are very good. It has seasoning and vinegar, which kind of screws up the balance of our equation. Okay, that along with the hot weather really kind of screwed everything up. So, and even up to the very end of December, it was still difficult trying to get it under control. This year, well, towards the end of November, I want to say of our last run of potatoes, we ended up having a blue slurry tank. It hasn't been operable for several years. Okay. And my thing is, we have equipment, let's use it. You know, keep it fixed, keep it maintained. And I spent a lot of money in, number one, making sure that the DAF equipment works so that we can get suspended solids out of our system. Spending money to get rid of that waste properly. That, as well as here recently, and well, the other thing what we're trying to do is get rid of our East Lagoon, use it only as an emergency situation. We found that last year the smell really came from the East Lagoon, and that particular lagoon is not an aerated lagoon. So therefore, you get all that, we have all that beet waste in there, along with some potatoes, and the green beans, and you get mixed up, you know, I mean, when it comes in, it sits there. And it can't do anything, so the microbes won't work. You know, yeah, we kind of put some additives in there, but theoretically, in all theory, we really shouldn't do that. You know, we put like a sludge thing, bacteria to try to get the sludge moving. Because the sludge is the number one reason for the smell. And the other thing is, once we get that, you know, we try to get that natural aeration or whatever they call it. So sometimes when the wind blows, you know, it blows to the east, it blows to the west. When it blows from the south to the north, the whole town gets it. Okay, and I've just been here a year, but I can tell you that we've made strides, a lot of strides in making sure that the smell goes away. Getting rid of the east lagoon, like I said, we've dropped it probably 4 to 5 feet. And I go out almost every day and see which way the wind blows, and I go to that side to see if there's a smell. Today was a perfect example of the 8 million gallon lagoon. We've transferred water. We tried to transfer the water from the east into the 8 because it's aerated. Okay, and it does a better job. It's more efficient. The VOCs are higher. You know, you have more oxygen in there. So that helps. The only problem with that is when we started spraying in April because that's our permit. Okay, we've removed from the east, we lower that probably about 4 feet, send it into the 8 million gallon, and from the 8 million gallon, we spray it out into our spray field. Okay. Then what happens is where we're at right now is the waste. I want to say the sludge kind of collects on the sides or the corners of the lagoon, 8 million gallon. And we have 2 corners right now. It's the northwest and the southeast corner. What we're going to do is a quick short-term fix is to make sure that we're going to suck that out. We're going to suck the sides out because that's where the smell's coming from. And, it's not too bad right now because it's only a small area, but you know, we called the back place and it's never really been done up there before, but we're trying to be proactive and we're going to clean that side, the sides where the sludge is building up, because as the level goes down, if it doesn't dry up fast enough, or if the rain doesn't wash it in, the accumulation, the way the flow of the lagoon goes and travels, the water travels, it goes in a circular motion, it generally collects on the corners. And sometimes depending on which way the wind blows, you can see it, okay? And as it goes down, it really accumulates, and that's what we're gonna try to do, and suck that out and apply it. So the biggest thing is the east lagoon. And we're gonna use that as an emergency. Like I said, we've got all of our equipment working like it should now. Spent a lot of money and gave my managers a lot of help to make sure that this stuff is operating properly. To me, why have the equipment if you're not gonna save it? Okay, like I said last year when I first came here, that's what we have to do. You know? I mean, I don't want the smell any more than anybody else does. You know, and I appreciate you coming. I get emails, I get phone calls, and I try to address it as, as I can. You know, but believe me, I leave here, it's not easy to take phone calls. Okay, emails, same thing. My goal, and I've said it before, is I want to eliminate the smell. Okay? I want to eliminate it. Question?
Just two questions, real short. Are your aerators pretty much all working or you're not
All
using?
working.
What?
They're all working.
Okay. And then one other thing is, I might have asked this at an earlier time, but do you get any like chemicals or stuff from like applied biotech and
We don't use them.
Okay.
We'll get some additives that are non-toxic, obviously, to the environment.
okay,
We do get them from a company that works with us out of
okay.
around Madison. And we don't do anything that,
Which is good.
yeah,
I know they got like friendly enzymes and stuff.
well, definitely. And that's one of the things, if I can find a way to suck that sludge out, I mean, we do now, it's coming off and we collect it in a 6,000 gallon tank. You know, we're gonna be full next week. And I've already called today to come and prepare to get that sludge removed. Smells like hell, to be quite honest. I mean, but you know what? That's the best fertilizer you can get. It is. I mean, it's like if I could find a way to make that dry, or, I mean, I'm telling you, it's liquid gold. It really is.
You should go to the Malorganite factory, because I did a tour there and they do a great job. Anyway, I want to say thank you so much for your efforts. It sounds like you're really trying to actually control the smell, and from what I've heard from residents, for many years, it hasn't been addressed. My concern is with your emergency usage of the East Pond, if you have another beet season, what are you going to do to control the smell in the future?
We'll have a beet season, but the problem is doing it in the middle of the year, you know, of the season. We did it in August, and other places that I've been, we would do beets in the middle, you know, in August, early August. We would have an early, but we didn't have holding tanks. I mean, we didn't have lagoons. We just did the spray on a spray field. Like we have two sprays, there was one out west and one, you know, west spray field, and then we have our plant spray field, about 60-some acres. And we have, what my goal is to try to make sure that it doesn't go into the lagoon, okay, or those lagoons. That's why I got that holding tank repaired. It just sits there, you know. But towards the end of the year last year, we were able to put it in there, no leaking, and we could pull the solids out from the bottom. And if we needed to, put the salt or put the liquid into the lagoon. So the key to it is to get the solids out at the plant level. Okay, so we have a sewer house, and that's one of the things that we're really focusing on is to eliminate, pull the solids out. And they're not big particles, but there's some technology out there that we're using. We've got a company coming in, I don't know if you've heard of Sweco. It's a Sweco separator. We got our sales rep coming in, and we're gonna do some trials on our potatoes, which we're gonna start running tomorrow morning. So, you know, we're always exploring different avenues. You know, so that's kind of the fun part, because you know, you have the DNR, and there's a lot of restrictions on companies. You know, and we follow the permit. That's our job. We have to follow the permit, the management plan, and so my thing is to try to do better with whatever we do in a sustained environment. You know, but we want to be good stewards of the environment. You know, and if smell happens to be one of them, we're gonna.
Is there any chance of using a sludge press?
We've talked about it. We used to, contract, we're not contract, but Western Milling was a group that used to, that I worked with in the past. And they have had some vegetable presses. But for some reason, they just don't want to take the weights.
I worked at a band instrument company that got all the solids. And we had a press that actually pressed it into cakes. And then what we did was load them in cardboard boxes and have them taken away.
Okay. That's something I can definitely, I'll follow up with the company that I've worked with.
Any other questions for Paul?
Actually, Paul, yeah, Scott. So what you've done, it's been great, as Sarah said, it's much better than it was last year. And thank you for getting all your equipment up and running. What's your current preventative maintenance program? Besides you walking up to it?
Oh, I actually have a guy that works at it 100%. And he actually lives here in the community. And he actually bought a house on this side of town. So he's vested in making sure that it doesn't smell as well. But I guess he's kind of surprised at the fact that I've spent more money trying to make sure that all the equipment's operable. He's in favor of that. I mean, he has a direct line of communication with me. So I have an open door policy, and anybody can come in and ask me questions. But in particular, he's boisterous. He thinks like it is. We get along great, and he's committed. We purchased a compressor because we had one break down. We had some valves that we need to replace. We're working on those. Pump that has a crack, but he repaired it. But instead of waiting for it to break again, we're purchasing another one. So he's very proactive, and he knows how I feel about making sure that equipment runs and it's operable. We've actually added some more equipment, a VFD, variable drive, frequency drive, to the DAF that when we pull sludge out going from the lagoon, we can actually inject it into our spray lines where we're going to spray. It'll spray out, whether it's the smelly stuff or whether it's the stuff that we just pull out of our storehouse. To me, that's the ideal stuff. And we want to haul the sludge away.
Follow-up question to the beads, or just in general. How much forewarning do you have that loads coming in to be processed?
As far as
Beans.
Huh?
For instance, the beads.
Oh, the
How
beans.
did you get 2-day notice?
Oh, no,
week
we'll
notice?
get a couple months.
Okay, so you got a couple months to get whatever you need in line to process that.
And as soon as they said, I can remember one. I mean, it was probably one of the times when I first got here last April. And they said, "Oh, you're gonna run LEDs." I said, "Oh, okay, great." It didn't bother me because I've run LEDs before, but I didn't know what the impact of what the pickling would do to over here.
And now knowing that.
Now, knowing that, I will push back.
With your engineers and biochemists and whatever you want to get the proper.
Yeah, but here again, well, we won't use chemicals.
Well, additives or
Yeah,
enzymes,
yeah.
or whatever you.
But, to me, I want to get rid of the water that goes into the blue slurry tank. Because that's where it starts. Well, it starts in the plant, but then it goes to the sewer house. And we're looking at another system where the water will go up to a separator, but I don't think the separator is working effectively this year. So we're looking at different technology, newer technology, smaller screens, things like that, you know, to get rid of the solid. It's actually quite the challenge, you know, and it's fun. But here again, you know, my thought process is, my boss doesn't like to hear it, but I'm gonna spend the money. You know, I mean, I am gonna spend the money because I personally don't look at it. You know, I mean, really, because I want to do what's right. You know, whether it's for the company, whether it's for, you know, the state, or whether it's for the, you know, for the people. You know, that's, you know, I'd much rather come here and talk about this as opposed to, you know, feel like I'm gonna get lynched.
Yeah, to follow with Don's question on the sludge press, at Kohler generators, we have one that separates all that solid from our ecosystem, cleaning system, cleaning tanks, and it does a really, really nice job. So, yeah, I mean, if you could, you know, work with, you know, Western Milling and see what that option looks like.
Yep.
Because then maybe you could turn it into a vehicle.
Good. Yeah, there's a lot of sludge in that. You know, in the
Final question. Do you run the aerators during the winter?
yes. Up until they can't run, which means if they freeze. When it freezes over, it's like an ice castle. You know, we'll run it up to the last minute. You know, we'll run the side aerators, we'll run the center aerators, the floating. You know, so this year we were able to run as long as we could.
Right.
But it wasn't the 8 million gallon that caused all the smell that was used.
Which is not aerated.
And it's not designed to be aerated. And we're only, like I said, we are only going to use that as an emergency. Because I think we can maintain and manage what we have.
So what's the end date potential goal to have that east is
There's always going to be some water in it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know. I'd say by the end of this season, but you don't know. I can't predict what's going to happen. But the biggest thing is trying to reduce the amount of water that we use. And we pull from 2 wells, and I want to try to conserve as much as I can. And there's some things that I'm thinking about doing, recirculating, recycling, things like that. Here's what I can do. Just from my experience.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I'd like to thank you, Paul, for your efforts, and thank you for coming here to explain it to everyone.
Like I said, if anybody has any questions, feel free to call me. If I don't get back to you immediately, I'll eventually get there. I get pretty busy, particularly now with where we are this year. We're going to start potatoes. We're going to do a short run of potatoes, probably a couple of weeks. We're only going to run one shift. Do some sanitation every night. And we would run 2 shifts, but it's hard to get people for whatever reason, with the unemployment situation and extra benefits. And, I hope at some point that stops. Everybody's screaming for people. I mean, it's amazing. It really is. You get back to this. Everybody. I mean, even jobs that, even places that aren't considered non-essential. It's just hard to get these skilled, qualified people. But then after a couple weeks, I'd say hopefully by Memorial Day, we're done with our early potatoes. And then we'll have probably wait till after the 4th of July, at least that's my thinking. This colder weather is gonna keep the beans at bay. For germinate and cold efficiency as well. So I'm looking at after the 4th of July, and then from there, just continue on. Okay,
Okay, thank you very much, Paul.
you're welcome. Thank you.
We'll move on to new business. We'll have a presentation of 2020 audit by Wendy Unger from Baker Tilly.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everyone in person. Hopefully you received prior to this evening, you should have the 2 financial statement documents plus a couple page handout that should have been part of your packet. I will use the couple page handout to go through those 2 documents at a relatively high level. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have as I'm going through the information. The objective of the audit was to render an opinion on the financial statements for the village. We've done that. We've issued a clean, unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of assurance that you can obtain from us as your auditors. That unmodified opinion means that the financial information that's contained within your audited statements is believed to be materially accurate, that all the disclosures that are required to be included have been included, and that generally accepted accounting principles have been adhered to. On the next page of the handout, this is where I presented some very high-level financial information. On this page, there's 4 funds. These are the 4 governmental funds of the village. In a moment, we'll switch gears and talk about water and sewer. But on this page, and I'm also going to give you a few page numbers as I go through this, all of this information is in your audited statements in much more detail. So that you can look at that information at your leisure. The first column there is the general fund. This is the day-to-day operating fund of the village. This can be found on page 43 in a budget to actual presentation. Again, showing much more detail. But a couple points to note, actual revenues for the general fund for 2020 was $1.5 million. That compares to a $1.45 million budget. So your revenue category was over budget by approximately $70,000. The 2 largest components of that are you received the routes to recovery money during 2020. That was roughly $42,000. And then you had some miscellaneous insurance dividends, insurance recoveries and some donations that were approximately $30,000 more than budget. Your expense category, very close to budget. Although you did come in a little bit under budget, $1.674 million compared to $1.68 million. So you were roughly $10,000 under budget, so very close. A couple things just to note, obviously 2020 was a huge election year, so your election costs were approximately $12,000 over budget. Your legal costs were $5,000 under budget. Your public works department came in $8,000 under budget. Your park and rec program, $13,000 under budget, as one would expect with the pandemic. And then your capital outlay was $40,000 over budget, and that was partially due to the donations that were made via the village to the school district for the COVID, and then also the cameras that were purchased at the recycling center that was not anticipated at the time of budget. So overall, when you put together your 2020 budget, you budgeted to use roughly $235,000 of fund balance. For 2020, you used $153,000. So although you used some fund balance, you still used less than what you had expected to use. When you add that to the beginning of the year fund balance, your general fund had almost $490,000 of fund balance as of the end of the year. That fund balance is broken into 4 pieces. Some of it is spendable, some of it is not. $15,000 is not spendable. That's monies that you have either spent already or haven't collected, but it's not out of fund balance. So that's roughly $15,000. You have a restricted portion. That's $122,000. These are your park and stormwater fees of $109,000. Those are restricted for the purpose for which they were collected. You also have some restricted tourism money of approximately $13,000 that the village is currently holding. You have a sign fund balance of $26,000. That was items that the board approved, I believe, at last month's meeting. So those are all items you should be aware of. But there is a footnote in your financial statements on page 34 that details that information out. The remaining balance of that 490,000 is what's referred to as unassigned. Those are your working capital, your contingency type monies, and that equates to $326,000 and represents roughly 19% of your operating budget. So a very strong financial position within your general fund, allowing you some resources if needed in the upcoming years. The next column is your TIF fund, your TIF special revenue fund. This is also found on page 44 of your audited statements with a budget to actual comparison. Overall, the TIF fund had $818,000. Most of that is increment that is collected on the property. That fund had $981,000 of expenses. It's got principal and interest on debt, and then a transfer that goes over to the debt service fund to make the remaining principal and interest payments. So the TIF fund utilized $163,000 of fund balance and had $455,000 as of the end of the year. All those monies are restricted for purposes of the TIF. The next column is your debt service fund. Exactly what it sounds like. You collect a tax. You have monies that come in from the TIF fund, and then ultimately you make the principal and interest payments on village debt. This does not include your utility debt. This is only village debt. That fund had almost $900,000 of revenue, $900,000 of expenditures, had zero fund balance, and you would expect it to, unless you're trying to generate some future fund balance for a balloon type payment or something like that. So again, zero fund balance. The last column on this page is the capital project fund. This is also found on page 6 of your audited statements, and $397,000 of revenue. Those are monies that come out of your general fund and get transferred in there for particular future capital needs, equipment or project related. You spent almost $50,000 during 2020, and that was on the lawn tractors. So overall, that fund actually added $348,000 to fund balance and had $745,000 of fund balance as of the end of the year. Again, assigned for particular capital items. On the last page of the handout, this is where I've highlighted the water and sewer activity for 2020. This is found on page 10 of your audited statements, the income statement. Page 11 reflects the cash flow activity. Just a couple items to note. Both the water and utility saw an increase in that position for 2020, an increase over what was added in 2019. Both of those utilities saw an increase in revenue due to the increase in consumption by Lakeside Foods. So water revenue was up by $50,000. Sewer utility was up by $113,000. But keep in mind also in your sewer utility, your revenues included roughly $73,000 of insurance for the UV system. So there was some additional revenue in there. Overall, the water utility had an increase in that position of $112,000 over the previous year, at $4.7 million in that position. So when I spoke previously about fund balance, keep in mind, fund balance is very close to cash. Net position is not, because net position is reflective of all the infrastructure and all the capital assets that exist within your utilities, less the related debt. So 4.7 of net position, $1,095,000 of cash within your water utility. Of that, roughly $106,000 is restricted for debt service and impact fees. So again, a large amount of working capital within your water utility. The sewer utility saw an increase in that position of $126,000, raising that net position to almost $4.5 million. Included in there, $624,000 of cash, of which roughly half of it is restricted for equipment replacement and debt service requirements. Switching gears and to wrap up the presentation, there's another document we issue as part of the audit process, the reporting and insights document. That is a document we use to communicate comments and recommendations to both management and the board. Included in there continues to be 2 material weaknesses regarding segregation of duties and preparation of the financial statements by us as your auditors. Neither of those are uncommon or unusual, but again, we are required to bring that to your attention, and those are identical or similar to what you've seen in the past. Other portions of that is some other comments and recommendations, talks about a best practice IT type related comment, also shares any new governmental accounting standards that will be effective for the village in the upcoming year. And there is one that will be effective, that is probably the one that will have the most relevance. That is a new lease standard. And will change how lease activity is counted for. So that is something we'll work with management to make sure that the village is ready to implement that. And then the final portion of that letter is really our required communication to you as those charged with governance. Really highlights the scope of the audit, whether or not we had any difficulties, which we don't. Your team does a great job preparing for the audit, so nothing I need to draw to your attention there. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank Vicki and Julie. We did this audit remotely, virtually, so a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, but I think we're on the home stretch and getting back to in-person audits. So, but again, I'd like to thank them for all their extra effort that they had to put in to accomplish this year's audit. So that is what I have prepared. Happy to answer any questions if you have any. If not, also, please feel free to reach out at any point in time to go through any of this in more detail. I know this is a very high level and quick clip note version, and I'm happy to talk to any of you in more detail regarding any of the information or the audit in general.
Okay, thank you very much, Wendy.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 9B, approved scope of engagement for Corliss and Brady to serve as bond counsel and disclosure counsel of issuance of 2.25 billion general obligation promissory notes series 2021A.
This is just a procedural thing, just, I mean, we talked about it at a previous meeting, the purpose of this. Just a normal procedural motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we approve the scope of engagement.
Second.
Motions are made and seconded. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 9C, approve resolution 10-21, authorizing the issuance of sale of 2.27 million general obligation promissory note series 2021A.
Bill Murray from Ellers.
Good evening, George Millers, of the village's financial advisor. I handed out our sale day report. I have some good news. I heard the president say, reading off the resolution title, 2.27 million. We actually, the village will be issuing $2,250,000. When I was here before you for the pre-sale presentation a month or two ago, the size was going to be $2,270,000, but we reduced it by $20,000 based on the good bids that we received on the water and sewer project. So we're not issuing as much money as we originally thought. Today, we are issuing general obligation promissory notes. They're 5-year notes. It's the finance, water, and sewer extension projects. Today, we received 5 bids on your behalf. The second place bid came in 15 basis points lower than all the rest. This came in from Bankers Bank, which tends to be the most fiscally conservative. But all the underwriter firms, the next 4 bids all came in within 8 basis points. So they were competing very hard, and Bankers Bank came in at the last minute, blew them out of the water, which is all good news for the village. The low bid came in at Bankers Bank out of Madison at tremendous cost of 0.66%. That low bid came in 79 basis points or 0.79%, so less than half of what we had projected it would be when I stood before you a few months ago. What does that mean? That means it's going to allow the village to save just under $33,000 in interest costs from what we had projected, which is all very good news. The Bankers Bank also did not utilize all the money we put in the original sizing for them to do the underwriter's discount. That's where they get compensated, so they were cheaper than we had expected. This allows the village to keep $16,875 for projects that you can utilize this year or for next year, depending on what the needs are. So you get a little bit extra money. I also, there's additional information breaking down the bid tab, showing all the bids that we received, showing how we allocated the project funds between the water and sewer fund. Table 3 on page 7, and it shows the savings from what we had projected the debt service would be to what it and page 8 shows table 4 shows the allocation between water and sewer. Roughly 46% of the project costs are being assigned to water, 54% is being allocated to your sewer utility. This is a general obligation, so it's secured by property taxes, but you will be abating those taxes each year through your water and sewer revenue, so it does not have a property tax impact. The last page shows just a trend in what markets have been doing. We did start to see an increase here in February into March of this year, which has pushed us up, but rates still are near historic lows from where they have been. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we're recommending that the village award the sale of the Series $2,250,000, Series 2028, Bankers Bank, at a true interest cost of 0.66%. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I move to approve resolution 10-.
Sorry, Rose, you have resolution on introduction first. I don't
Oh.
think we got that.
I thought we had the.
Did you introduce it, Pete? I thought you were just reading an agenda item.
Yeah. Like to introduce 10-21 resolution authorizing issuance and sale $2,250,000 in a bond, or for a promissory note, that is.
Then I move to approve resolution 10-21 authorizing the issuance and sales of $2,250,000 general obligation promissory note, series 2021A, awarding to Bankers Bank.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to 9D. Review and approve revised park user agreement addendum. I believe, Jerry, you just
We took
cleaned it
out-
up a little bit.
Yeah, we took out the mandatory social distancing provisions and just revised that to say people will that they've acknowledged the existence of the CDC guidance, and they'll do their best. It's a little less restrictive.
Make a motion to approve the revised park user agreement.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. 9E.
I did receive an email from Patricia Lutz from the LACS regarding this, and I think I did share that in the
Yes.
packet.
Mhm.
Okay. So I don't know if there was any more discussion on that.
No motion passed, so we'll move on to 9E. Determination regarding possible sex offender residency ordinance violation.
Village received a, I guess you'd call it a complaint, a letter from somebody indicating that they had become aware that a registered sex offender was living within the village, and that in and of itself isn't necessarily a violation, but we do have an ordinance that prohibits certain kinds of registered sex offenders from living in certain areas of the village. The village has a series of maps and lists of properties that fall within what are known as child safety zones, and it's alleged that this person lives at one of those addresses. I helped Julie craft a letter that we sent to the person that is alleged to be living there, making that person aware of the ordinance. We copied that to the property owner. We pointed out that the village has an appeal process to seek an exemption. We also asked if the information was faulty, in other words, if the person wasn't living there, that they let us know. To my knowledge, we haven't received any response to that letter.
No.
Okay, so we can't just ignore it. Our ordinance calls for the village board to make a written determination that there may be a violation and refer the matter to the village attorney for further action. So you have a draft of a written determination in your packet that you see fit, you can adopt. I think what we would do then is I would send another letter from the village attorney's office to the name of the person we added to the property owner, just telling them that we want to hear from them. And if we don't, then I guess the next step would be legal action. We could bring what's called a public nuisance action, a lawsuit to seek to impose monetary penalties and an order that that person can't live there. Hope it doesn't come to that, but we got to do what's best. It'd be nice if we could find out for sure if somebody could knock on the door, but I don't expect Leon as well as village marshal to be doing that.
No, I really don't feel comfortable doing that.
Understood. I don't expect you to. I don't know, Dan, if you know the answer to this. I haven't looked. The sex offender registry, people on that list are required to update their residence.
Correct. Depends what tier they're on there, but that should be able to be updated and found on the registry, whether they've done that or not.
And what happens if a person doesn't? Who do you go to about that?
Well, it depends if they're on probation yet or not. If they're still on probation, you can refer that to the probation officer for action, but if they're not, but just on the registry, I'm not sure.
Okay. It looked to me, just looking at CCAP, that they're beyond their
Probation.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, the offense was a number of years ago,
Yeah.
15, something like that.
Yeah, they do police that registry, they're supposed to, but I don't know how that's done or how often it's done. You know, a lot will depend on what this person was put on the registry for in the first place.
Mhm. Well, I guess if the board wants to go ahead with that written determination, then we'll take next steps, see what we can figure out.
So it has been determined they are in the critical area.
The address where the person is alleged to be residing is within the child safety.
But it hasn't been proven yet that they're residing.
We don't know that all we have is a complaint saying this person is living there, but we have no way of knocking on a door and verifying.
Yeah.
You said we did send a letter. Oh,
Through Julie, Julie and I wrote a
send that
letter.
out?
Yeah, that's what you do. And then-
I'm sorry, Don, did you say when?
No, I just wondered if we send it out.
On April 28th.
Do you feel that's sufficient amount of time for them to answer?
Well, what we told them is that if they believe that there was any incorrect information in that letter, they should call Julie. And if we didn't hear from them or receive a written appeal for an exemption by May 7th, last Friday, then the village board was going to take the matter up tonight. So they're aware of the time frame. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to make a phone call and say, you're wrong, this person never lived here, or this person was here, but he's not anymore. We get nothing.
Especially if they're not living there, it'd be in the best interest of that property owner to come out with that right away.
That's why I look at it. If this was wrong,
Right.
I think they'd have reached
If it was
out
my
to us.
property, I'd be, no, hey, no, this is not what's going on.
Right.
Them not getting back to us is also a little.
Right. Well, given the parameters that you just set forth, that we've given them the opportunity to respond and they have not. I say that we do take the next step and, issue that next letter.
Okay, so what you do tonight is you issue the written determination. And then again, I'm not going to jump right into a lawsuit. We're going to
No,
try to get this resolved peacefully with cooperation. So we'll send another letter and hopefully that'll generate some response. And failing that, we'll go from there. But this is next step.
Is this something those Ozark County sheriffs can follow up on?
That, I don't know that they're going to view that as within their,
There is no crime that's been committed yet. You don't have a victim or anything right now. The person is in violation, DOC can always issue a warrant, and then they would follow up with that, but that's step 7A. We haven't even shown that this person resides there yet.
This is a violation of our ordinance. But we don't feel right to.
Well,
Marshal.
again, we have a complaint that says this is the case. We have not been able to verify that, nor have we been able to disprove that.
Wow.
So we're going to try to engage the person and or the property owner and see what we can find out.
Make a motion to issue the second letter,
I'll second.
Well, again, you say written determination.
the written determination.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, 9F, discuss and approve ordinance number 11-21, creating chapter 140 to allow fireworks displays.
I guess I can take the lead on this one too. We got a request from the Beeklers to, right now our village ordinances don't allow fireworks.
Right.
They requested that we create an ordinance to allow them to discharge fireworks as part of their various events. Their request was that we do it as an annual permit. When I read that, I was hesitant because it seemed to me that then it's hard to know when they're going to be shooting off fireworks. And then whether it's them, a permitted person or not. I looked at a good 25 other municipalities, probably more in Wisconsin, to see what they did. I couldn't find anyone that does an annual permit. They all do it on an event basis. So I tailored ours after that. I'm not saying you gotta charge them an arm and a leg for every permit, but you can certainly take that into account, but.
It's on a case-by-case basis for each activity.
Yeah, then if fireworks are being shot off on a Saturday night, and you say, oh, that's, Beeklers have a permit for that. I mean, we all know on the 4th of July, everybody shoots off fireworks. I'm not talking about the 4th of July here. You want to accommodate them as best you can, but you want to know it's them and not somebody else who's doing what they're not supposed to be doing and not permitted to do. Danny, from a fire department standpoint, do you have any concern?
Well, they gotta be far enough away. I mean, they're illegal to blow off in Wisconsin to begin with, but we're not gonna sign off on it.
Well, that's another question is, I've seen communities that require the fire department to sign off, or they put more regulations on distance from things. Again, I model this after what some other communities do, but I didn't throw in everything.
I mean, we didn't talk about it yet as a department. I didn't talk to Pat at first on it yet. I mean, we want to see what was gonna happen here first.
Well, this isn't them themselves blowing them off fireworks, if we bring in people who do this.
They will blow them off yourself.
Correct, and
Yeah.
we're setting a firebox over an acre and a half pond, ain't like we're just, and we got 54 acres that we're doing it on. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in the village that's got 54 acres that they're blowing fireworks on, so you gotta put that in consideration too,
Yeah, again, it would not be like us, and I would like, even like when we burn, like I always, like I call usually the fire department, talk to them, but I always, so my thought process was we wouldn't just do it without letting anyone know, because I even approached, I don't know who I talked to on the board about it, but how do you go about, like, is there some way you can let the people in the town know or the village know that we are going to be doing this so that they're not like, oh my God, where are these things coming from? My poor dogs, my poor animals, things like that. I mean, obviously, we want to take that all into consideration too. So if there was a way that, like call the fire department way ahead of time, let you guys know, let the fire department know, when you would be doing this type of thing, you wouldn't just be like, hey, tomorrow we're gonna shoot off a bunch of fireworks, and they would be properly fired. It wouldn't be us, it wouldn't be the people renting the facility that are gonna be doing it. I mean, we would never allow that, nor would our insurance. Things like that. So we do want to do it the safe way, the proper way. We don't want to just, and the reason why we're doing this is we've had a couple people ask us, weddings, events, ask us if it's possible to do fireworks. And just knowing that, we're trying to do more with the village, with the community, potential things that we might be doing at the farm, just kind of wanting to go into this with the possibility that might be an option.
Well, I have a question, and I think you probably partially answered it, but for some of your major events that you are spearheading, I quite understand that you would be contracting with a pyrotechnics team that's bonded and insured, and you've got to cover your bases. But my concern is with secondary events like weddings and things like that. These people are not going to be bringing in their own.
Right, so this is something too, they have to consider, like, the cost of it too. I mean, if I'm not covering the cost so if people, like a wedding event wants to come in and have fireworks, then I also need to sit down and say, okay, like, there's cost with this, A, B, C, D. It's not just you come in and bring in your own fireworks and they get shot off. Because again, there's extra insurance I have to pay, the cost of the fireworks, the people that shoot out the fireworks, all of that to consider as well.
So they would bring in their own professionals then for that.
So that's, I guess, where I have to look at, we probably have to, because I would have to know where they would want to get them from, because that's one thing. If they're wanting to bring them themselves. Otherwise, I guess we would have to look at ourselves, like, I actually think it would be better if we just dealt with it and we said, okay, if you want to do fireworks, this is where we get the fireworks from. What are you looking at? I think we should just be on the end of, because I think our insurance isn't going to allow anybody to just bring in any Joe Blow either, like getting fireworks from who knows where.
Are you guys gonna be storing them?
No, I don't want to do anything like that. I would.
You mean like my junior Waker, he's got
Yeah,
a fire neck guy that he does it all, and
Yeah.
we set him up with
You
some.
store them out there.
Yeah, he's got a licensed guy that shoots, I mean, they wouldn't have this, you need.
It's
Yeah.
basically just
Guy out there
contracting,
lighting fireworks.
contracting
Exactly.
somebody to come in and do them.
We're doing it for our
bringing them in,
clients,
doing
not
them, just having the option to be able to do the fireworks. We would have actually nothing to do with them ourselves per se, I guess. We wouldn't be letting them off. We wouldn't be storing them. I guess we're just looking at the ability to be able to do them on our premise.
Well, I'm chair of the Public Safety Committee, and I'm just giving my own personal opinion here. I'm not speaking for any other board members. I would be perfectly comfortable with you having the ability as an event venue to set off fireworks, but I would need to be assured that it is a professional company, bonded, insured, that all liabilities are taken care of. And that would seem to me to preclude just, allowing anybody to contract out. I would think you would want to have a set purveyor. And that's just my opinion. I'm not opposed to it. I just want to make sure that it's done safely.
No, we agree, yeah.
Yeah, and if there's like, because usually anything we do, it's all planned out like months in advance or even a year in advance. So, if we need to submit something, to say that this, I don't know how we want to do it, but this is the people that are coming in to do it,
That's all, I'm sorry, that's all part of what this ordinance requires you to do.
Okay,
Your permit, you have to submit certain things,
okay,
the kind of fireworks, the quantity, where they're gonna be stored in the meantime. they have to have a pyrotechnician who's licensed. We have to provide a copy of that. And there's insurance requirements. So I think a lot of what you're talking about
Answers that.
is in here. We have a provision
there's
also, again, I
times.
stole from some other community that says you can't display it within 70 feet per inch of shell of any gas pump, filling station or bulk station, or any building in which gasoline or bottled liquid. Like Piper, I don't know, you know. I have no idea what 70 feet per inch per shell means exactly, but it sounded good.
And really the only, honestly, the only reason why we're looking at doing an annual one is cost. We didn't know how much you guys were gonna charge us to get a permit every time we needed to do it, I guess, you know what I mean, so.
Yeah, I don't think that's the point. This isn't a money generator for the village. They'd have to cover Julie's time
Yeah,
in administering it, but again, they're not out to gouge you certainly.
right,
They want to support your business, I know that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're not talking like it would be every weekend or anything like that, it's just, you know, again, we just have people approach us and ask, and it just got us talking about it. And we thought, well, we would ask them about it. And
So what are the wishes of the board here?
Well, I'll move to approve ordinance 11-21, creating chapter 140 to allow firework displays. Is that all I need?
I'll second.
Motion's been made second. Any further discussion?
I think it should be per event though. Is there?
That's what this says.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that
A permit for every event.
so does that
Just so
mean we have
that
to
can
put
be
in- sorry.
put on the village website or Facebook or anything, so the village does know.
Oh, it would be a simple matter once you guys issue a permit for me to post on the website that, you know, on Saturday night, whatever date, there will be fireworks shot off at over Beekler Farms or over wherever.
And I'm actually glad that you would do something like that, just because of the fact that if anybody calls us, you know, and complains, we can say it was listed on the site, or in future, check your site to know, you know, if we're having anything like that, because I think most people around here know that we do events, especially in the summer, you know.
Would you have it on,
No, then I was just gonna say, so then would we,
Yeah.
is that like, Julie, is that like how I did it now, I come in the month before and have to, or how does that work?
Well, that's also needs to be determined by the board, you know, what would the approval process be? And the fee that would be assessed to, so.
Julie,
On,
how much time do you think would take you to drop that permit? I mean, we talking maybe $20, $25 every occurrence, or
just make it reasonable.
I mean, I
Or
provided
15
a
or-
list
there's,
in the
yeah,
packet, I provided a list of permit fees that other municipalities have. You know, it's ranging from 520 to some that are 100, 300, and a larger, like, the Village of Kohler has $100 per event. Mequon 75.
Supposed to get cheaper the further north you go.
well, on our permit application, special events, if we classify that as a special event, it's $20. So I would guess $20 fee just to cover your guys' time to do the permit, to do all the advertising of it. That would have to be in your motion, but
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to include a $20 per event fee.
And just to clarify, then you guys are, with this ordinance, allowing the clerk to issue the permit as long as all the information required is.
Well, that should be a separate, the ordinance calls for either the village president or another official designated by the village board. So let's get the ordinance out of the way and then we can talk about, do they want to designate somebody? Maybe have a motion on to approve the ordinance with the $20 fee. Is that
Yes.
correct?
I'll second. That's it. Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Now, to Vicky's point, the ordinance says that a permit shall be issued by the village president or other official or employee of the village as designated by the village board. So do you want to designate somebody besides Pete to be able to issue these permits?
I'd like to make a motion that between Julie and I will go over it.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
One clarification for Vicky is, when you put it on like the website, do you put it on the kiosks too, or?
That's unfair. You just have to get that.
I'd have to look,
Just a question.
you know, I guess that's up to you guys. You're in charge of the social media policy, so if you want it on the
It takes
electronic
10 to put
board.
on the sign too. I
How
mean,
many
it's not-
people, how many people really look at the website that much?
Well, yeah, apparently a lot, because we just had people talking
And
about it last
Facebook,
week.
and I can easily post on Facebook, because Facebook gets
Yeah.
tons of response.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's good.
Put it on the sign, I don't think, you know.
Yeah, I would worry that then people just seeing it briefly as they're driving by would think that maybe it's a public fireworks display or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Irene, you usually do a lot of advertising on Facebook, so you just throw it in there.
Yeah, I mean, it easily just let
Everybody.
everybody know that we're gonna be doing fireworks on certain.
Okay.
Okay.
There's no other discussion. We'll go on to 9G. Discuss and approve street name for new Luxembourg development, east-west street from Binsfield to Royal Avenue. You're up.
So, it's a little clarification on the text that you have on the agenda. It's the east-west street that we're just about to put curbs on to the north. We'd like to actually name Luxembourg Brotherhood Boulevard. They were one of the key groups that helped propel the Luxembourg Museum and everything we see around the plaza here today. I'll move that forward. So with that, we would suggest that we honor the letters with their name on that east-west street to the north, not by replacing Binsfeld. This is the newly created street to the north. As of yet unnamed.
Yeah, I think I said from Binsfeld.
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I'm misreading
To
it.
LL.
So that east-west to the north.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what you like the name to be, Luxembourg Brotherhood Boulevard?
Correct.
It's a long one.
It's a long one. It's actually, they have a longer actual name, and this is what we.
Long sign.
Luxembourg Brotherhood Association.
I'm showing you raffle tickets with my address.
Poor little kid that's got to
Yeah,
spell
we were
it.
thinking that.
Spell it.
Some 5-year-old kid has to remember that.
He is never
But these
read the
guys
letter.
were integral to the success of the museum on the ground. So we would recommend that you guys consider that name. And hopefully as well.
I had called our sign company where we get them made and it'd be a larger sign, so they're gonna abbreviate the word boulevard if you do a all sign, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It still will be long, and probably still probably 2 feet long. So yeah, you're
I
aware of
would
it.
say.
Yeah, understood.
There's no discussion, I'm making a motion to approve the street name for the new Luxembourg development, east-west street from Binsburg to Royal Avenue.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks for your time.
9H, discuss and approve replacement of generator in lift station number 1. Estimated at $33,000 in equipment replacement fund.
Well, the generator that we currently have over at that particular lift station is from 1983. And it only has the ability to run one of the pumps at a time. And the last time that we lost power for a significant amount of time, that generator's tapped pretty hard, even when that pump is running all by itself. And we noticed that the generator used a significant amount of oil on that runtime. So
I just, kind of Brian had a, it's like, well, doesn't Pete get a discount? Well, there's a possibility. So rough numbers right now are between 33 and 35,000 for it would be an 85 kW, what we need, and all the proper switch gear with the appropriate amount of labor for the electrician to come in.
When we purchased the last 2 generators from Kohler, we got a 10% discount. So 3,300, that probably covered the switchgear, I'd imagine. Or at least a chunk of it.
Yeah, I mean.
I gotta check to see if I can get that again. So.
You might have to work a month longer.
Oh, no. That ain't happening. No. So I will check into it. I have to find out, I got it written down at home, who I talked to the last time, so. He was pretty good about it. Hopefully he'll do it again, so.
Yeah, but that's just the numbers that John got from Total Energy, so there was no discount with that. I'm gathering you, if I remember correctly, Pete, the last time we got a discount on the generators and the switchgear.
I know the switchgear comes through a different company.
Well, whatever,
Yeah.
even if we save $2,500.
Yeah, I know last time they gave us 10% off. That was the one down by the hotel and the one.
Up at KW Park.
KW, yeah. So I don't know what size are those, same thing?
No, they're a lot smaller.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I think they're 30. Yeah, I think they're 30 Ks.
okay. I will check that out tomorrow. By the way, do we have majority of this money in the?
The majority of the money, I believe there's like 30.
We have 33,000 already saved for that replacement of that generator. And if you felt that it would take another 2,000, that would not impact our equipment replacement fund at all.
Okay.
We can approve it contingent on that.
You could approve it contingent to a certain amount, up to a certain amount.
Okay. Up to 35,000. I can make that motion. Discuss it, approve the replacement of the generator, lift station number 1, to stay within the budget of 33 to 35,000. Equipment replacement.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll check on that generator tomorrow. Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And then I'll get you more of the actual, what one John wanted.